Tag me in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming at you live from episode 45 of Life on the Rocks with your host, Connor Rocques. Today's featured guest in the hot seat is my original trainer, actually, for Muay Thai, Joncas. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. I'm great. Thanks.
It's honestly a pleasure to have you on the show. It was actually by popular demand. People wanted Steve on. They actually requested you a bunch of times. So for anybody in the city right now that actually is wondering what Steve does, so Steve is the owner of Sudbury BJJ and Muay Thai, the only Gracie Jiu-Jitsu affiliated gym in the entire city. So first question I want to ask you, Steve, what got you started in business?
Wow. Well, it kind of just happened because I had a dream of having my own academy, right?
Absolutely.
So when I was doing martial arts when I was a kid, I was like, a teenager, and I always had it in the back of my head, like just to have my own school one day, and just kept training, and then when I was in my late 20s, I found Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and it just kind of evolved from there. I was living in Ottawa for about 7 years at that point, and I wanted to move back to Sudbury, and my one thing about moving back to Sudbury is I had no training partners. Right?
Definitely, yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu just didn't exist here at the time, so I just brought it here. I brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here from Ottawa, and I just flyered the crap out of the city, and my first class I had like 20 guys.
Wow.
And we had a great time. It was a fun time, and then it kind of just evolved from there. I eventually quit my job and jumped in both feet.
Wow.
A couple of years afterwards, and I've been at it since. So I've been running a business here in town now. This will be my 11th year.
11th year. That's incredible too. So when I actually started Muay Thai, so you had your first gym. Now you have 2 gyms open in the city, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So that's huge. I mean, it goes to show, right? Business is booming in a way. What were you doing before you got into the jiu-jitsu scene, like opening up a business?
Yeah, I was working in restaurants for a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that, yeah.
I did everything you could possibly do in a restaurant.
No.
Everything from, washing dishes to managing, waitering, everything in between. So I was a waiter for about 12 years before that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What got you involved, so with the jiu-jitsu aspect, like before, so did you come from a karate background, or were you starting off, like where did it all start, like in the martial arts? Because it's
the original tattoo right here. This is the karate black belt.
Oh, wow.
Right, when I was like, I don't even know, 21 maybe or something like that, when I got my karate black belt, and yeah, that was my first thing. And of course, like so many stories, I saw the first couple UFCs.
Absolutely.
So the story I always tell is, me and my buddies, brown and black belts, 18, 19 years old, going to high school, doing our thing, or right after high school, that kind of stuff. And then we would see these VHS tapes at the store, and it was, you'd go to the store and rent movies, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so it was like Ultimate Fighting Championship, and it's like they're fighting for real. There's full contact and no rules, and we were like, we got to watch this.
Absolutely.
So I watched the UFCs, and then I realized like Royce Gracie was, if you guys don't know who Royce Gracie was, he was the guy, he was the Gracie family representative that they put in back then. He was about 175 pounds and about 6'1", skinny guy, and he was fighting no weight class, 2-3 times a night, like fighting multiple opponents, stuff that they consider crazy now.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was just tearing it up, choking people out, arm locks, and kind of stuff. And my first thought was, man, I don't know anything on the ground.
Absolutely, yeah.
Karate, we did some takedowns, we did some like self-defense stuff, but my ground knowledge was just non-existent. And I was like, man, I got to learn this stuff. I want to add this into what I already know, which is what jiu-jitsu is meant to do. It's just meant to add to what you already know. And there was no jiu-jitsu in Sudbury, so I started doing judo.
That's okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I trained judo, and actually my first judo instructor was Mike Woodcock, who's now a BJJ black belt.
Oh wow,
as well,
yeah, does really well.
He's an absolute beast. So I trained with him at the Y. I trained with him at Laurentian, and Marco as well. Did judo for a few years. Did kickboxing. Went to Ottawa. Started training jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. I thought all jiu-jitsu was the same back then.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there was different factions, and it was a Japanese style jiu-jitsu.
Okay, yeah.
But the kickboxing instructor was a 23-time world champion, Jean-Yves Theriault, who was like a legend of kickboxing.
Wow, yeah.
So if you don't know who he is, you can Google him, check it out.
Yeah.
He's literally 23-time world champ. He's from Montreal. And when I was doing karate as a teenager, I would look in like Black Belt magazine. There'd be like full-page ads for his fights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I got to go train with Jean-Yves. He's the man.
Definitely.
And he still is the man, by the way. We
Yeah.
still call him the champ. And he's the nicest guy in the world. And of course, in his 50s, he'll still like skip like 20-25 minutes without skipping once. He
doesn't even break a sweat. Yeah.
He's awesome. Learned a ton from him. And in Ottawa, I started doing Muay Thai as well. Started off with Ottawa Academy of Martial Arts with those guys, and they wanted to have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai school. The thought there being for MMA or for self-defense, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, ground and standing grappling, with Muay Thai striking with standing grappling. It all transitions really well together.
Definitely.
Of course, MMA guys add in boxing and kickboxing as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And wrestling, which is great. But the thought was, let's do some Muay Thai, and we learned Muay Thai from some instructors down there, and again brought that to Sudbury.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
Started off with a purely Jiu-Jitsu school for the first.
So it was purely Jiu-Jitsu, yeah.
At first, yeah. The old school guys, we had I was using my friend Mike LaFondisi's karate dojo.
Oh, okay,
and it was on 2nd Avenue above this garage, and, and there was no AC, and it was hot as, can I say balls?
You can,
It was hot as balls.
No sense, yeah.
So so it was really hot, and we kind of outgrew that place pretty quickly. Mike's a super nice guy though, and then we ended up at the Gym Fitness Center.
Absolutely, which is huge. Yeah, that's actually where I started, was the Gym Fitness Center. I met you the one year I was looking into becoming a martial artist, and I'm like, well, what you do, everybody looks boxing first before they ever heard of Muay Thai, and then my brother said check out Muay Thai, and that's when we actually became introduced to you, and then we met a number of the people that we were still training martial arts today, and then it grew from there.
Absolutely.
So as an entrepreneur, like, were you always an entrepreneur? Did you find like coming out like a business person, you had the mind, or you're artsy more?
Well, it's funny you say the mind, because when I talk about entrepreneurship to young people or whoever, I talk about the mindset.
Definitely.
And for me, like I'm sure you agree, is you got to be a fighter in the sense that like it's a daily grind, right? It's a battle every day, and whether it's like you said earlier, it's your motivation or whatever's happening day to day. And my mindset as a martial artist has always been, if you don't give up, you'll never lose.
It's huge, yeah.
Right. So to me, it's like it's any fight. If you don't lose, you have to win, and that's the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu mindset too, right? If you don't lose, you're gonna win. And for me in life and business and everything else, it's that mentality, man. Like you can't, if you throw in the towel and give up, well, fine, you got whatever going on in your life, and you're gonna move on to other things or whatever. But if you have a goal to make a certain business happen, it's gonna be just putting in the work and just showing up day to day.
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah, taking the hits in the way, spit your tooth out, the Gary Vee mentality, right? In a lot of ways. I wanted to ask you, so what was the most difficult part about taking, so you're coming into a new market, right? So you said you were leaving Ottawa, you wanted to bring jiu-jitsu here, Muay Thai. What was the most difficult part of starting out that business and kind of building awareness? Like you said, you're getting flyers, everything out. Like, how did you start getting people to kind of buy into what you were doing? Just word of mouth, kind of? Was that your marketing?
Well, actually, at first, I was the only game in town.
Yeah,
there was, Team Shredder had their thing going on, but I think it was still in Eve's garage.
Eve's garage, yeah.
And so it's, they're doing their thing, but there was, I don't think anyone else was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or anything like that. So it was kind of a buzzword at the time.
Yeah.
Ultimate Fighter was on TV. It was starting to really blow up. UFC was starting to get big, and it was actually quite easy to get lots of people in the gym originally. And then some challenges came up a few years later when other academies started bringing that, started bringing in jiu-jitsu and doing Muay Thai, and so now we have three or four academies in town.
Definitely,
doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and also Muay Thai, so, and they all do their own thing and they all do a great job at it. My thing now is I feel like I've built my little niche market. And I've opened myself up more for like the everyday average people to do jiu-jitsu, just to learn self-defense essentially. That's the Gracie mentality. And earlier you said I'm the only Gracie affiliated gym. It's not 100% true. Sudbury MMA is
so they are Gracie. Oh, my bad on that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. Henzo Gracie, those guys do their thing and they're very good at what they do. We're the Gracie Academy affiliated, the Gracie University affiliated. So same family, just two different sort of cousins, right?
Wow,
different sets. All good.
So that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I knew they were affiliated Henzo Gracie. But then I thought, I was like, okay, did something change? Did someone do an acquisition? I didn't know what was going on.
So we're live. You're gonna slip up.
That's what happens. You don't rely. I can't really
question that. You're live, right? So what were we talking about?
So what was the most difficult part here? So I want to talk. This is important in business. I mean, for anybody taking hits, anything out there. What was difficult for you when you started having other academies popping up? Where obviously it's a stress in a way. You're in a capitalistic market. You gotta, how did you kind of maneuver through it or pivot when all of a sudden you have 3 gyms open up? They're stealing guys or something. You know what I mean? That's like business, right? You steal employees, whatever it is. Like, how did you transition into that?
I think the biggest thing for me is just a positive mindset.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get bogged down with, like, for example, in our industry, we have, our members are very close to us. We see our customers, our clients, whatever you want to call them. I call them clients.
Yeah.
We see our clients almost daily. For a lot of times, like some people are in there 4 or 5 days a week, and after several years, they've got the family in there, their kids are training, everything's cool, so they're like family,
exactly.
And it's a real family vibe. So if a family or some people sort of transition to another academy, it hurts. It's like, oh man, like, and you know, sometimes you want to ask them, like, what am I not doing that you need? You know, what is it that someone else is providing for you? But then after a while, I started to realize, like, man, every gym has its own vibe.
Exactly.
And every gym is sort of attracting its own sort of clientele. And some people are just going to do that. They're going to be a little bit nomadic and go from one to the other gym. And it's all good. And, you know, the people that like what I do, so I guess what it was is it's a matter of not trying to cater to everyone all the time.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? Like you know, for example, every time I would make a schedule change, I would have people that would call me up or Facebook me and be like, oh, hey, dude, you switched this class time. Now I can't make it on Fridays or whatever. And it's like, oh, sorry, dude. But, you know, the other 95 people, it's
are
cool.
still there. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but you gotta, what is that one saying? It's like the best way to fail is to try to please everybody.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
So you gotta do a little bit of what's good for you, for your business, and then also for the, you know, the majority of the
majority,
clients.
Yeah. Well, I think especially with you, Steve, I think one of the most important things I've watched, and even, you know, growing up with you as a first trainer, your ability to build relationships, and that's obviously such an important thing in sales and business. Is like, if you build strong enough relationships, my whole aspect of sales was that get a circle around the client. So whenever they're thinking about your niche, your product, whatever it is, they're going to come to you, and that's what you've done obviously successfully over the last 11 years. I mean, you're still here. You're open. You have 2 gyms, tons of clients going through here, good rapport. So, I mean, congrats and hats off to you. I want to talk about something important to me, because I know there's obviously a stigma with being a salesperson. I say to everybody, everybody's a salesperson regardless of what. Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that when you're not so much selling clients, you're helping them, getting them along to hit their fitness goals? How do you feel about the aspect of being a salesperson?
You know, it's funny because I love being a salesperson. Like, I think it's really fun. To me, it's like I get charged up when I have the opportunity to try to close somebody, and I think the word sales has a negative connotation, but I love it. I think you're 100% right. I think we're all salespeople every day. You know, you're selling something constantly, even if it's just yourself. Like, hey, come hang out with me or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
So for me, I love it. I think it's great. And the other thing I was thinking as you were saying that was, man, you got to believe in what you're selling.
Exactly. You know, crap, yeah.
You know, any good salesperson can sell anything, right?
Exactly.
But man, I'm selling Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Muay Thai fitness kickboxing is like, you know, it's proven to get people in amazing shape. They love it. They get a great workout. They get those fitness endorphins. They're feeling great. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, people get empowered. They feel amazing.
It's
you know,
so
they learn
true.
some techniques, and it's just a great vibe. So it's an easy sell for me.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah,
and you believe in it too, you know what I mean? It's that much easier for you.
Yeah, and you know, I work directly under Henner and Hito and Gracie. Those are my 2 instructors now. So if they're watching, shout out to those guys.
Seriously, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, they're master salesmen themselves, right? I mean, you know, they've built this huge global brand, and their fathers, well, Jorge and Gracie. Jorge and Gracie, if you guys don't know, so my 2 head instructors, Henner and Hito and Gracie, Jorge and Gracie is their father. And he started the UFC. That was his project back in the 90s, right?
It's huge.
He started the UFC. He sold it off. And, you know, made Gracie Jiu-Jitsu into a global brand.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, they have now GracieUniversity.com online store. You know, you can buy, you know, super dope T-shirts and stuff like that, just Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff. And, you know, Henry and Hito are doing really well in that area, too. So I'm learning sales stuff from them as well. But mostly what I've learned from them, and this is probably the hugest part of my development in the last probably 5 years, is the teaching.
Exactly, yeah. They say you're a true master when you start, you know, you take whatever you've learned and you'll be able to teach it, and that's when you truly know your art or whatever, you're a master of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're brown belt in jiu-jitsu, which is very high, and people, like, you know, karate's a little bit obviously different than the belt structure. It's a little easier to climb up, I would think.
Yeah.
And I mean, you put in the hours. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say that the teaching, it's what I've really honed as my craft.
Exactly.
You know, like you said, a master, and I heard the word master, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'll ever feel like a master of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know what I mean? I train with black belts that just completely steamroller me, but I have a blast doing it. You know? It's so funny because, I mean, you know, when you train with people, someone can beat you up, but in such a friendly way that you thank them after. You're like, oh, thanks, man, that was awesome.
Exactly, yeah.
And you walk up the gym like feeling great, even though this guy just completely like, you know, just
steamrolled you,
smushed you into the ground.
Yeah.
Like,
And no one even gets that, you know, as a martial artist. Like, what are you guys doing? You're kicking each other in the head and throwing each other to the ground, and you're having a fun time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a great, I mean, the other thing is, as you know, training just, for me, completely crushes the ego. Just completely encloses that and puts it in a little ball so you can just kind of go out. And I always talk to my kids about this. It's like, man, you don't need to be insulted if somebody cuts you off in traffic, or you don't need to be insulted if someone calls you a name or gives you a dirty look.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much like fear and anxiety and whatever is going on in people's lives that they have this pent up anger.
It's true.
Man.
You told
Martial
me,
arts.
yeah, martial arts is lets you kind of release that too. And even if you like, for a funny example is that if you are, you know, one of those people that's pent up with anger, you know, you come in the gym and you get schooled by somebody that's very talented, and that's what happens a lot. You try to let it out, and the guy just picks you apart. But one question I had to ask you, Steve, this is something I noticed, like going back, like let's say, you know, 7 years. I remember one time when I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, nothing really, just brief stint, and I remember you were like, holy crap, you're too tense. Like, you're too tense. That was one thing I noticed with you. You're always calm. You're calm, cool, and collected. Like, have you always been like that, or was that just through the martial arts? Like, do you have any tips or anything for people? How the hell do you get into that zen? Because I'm always, like, fired up, you know, tense. Like, how do you get into that?
I've been accused of being too calm.
Too calm, yeah. Relax, you know?
Like, I'm actually quite fired up right now. Maybe it's your energy, you know what I mean?
It must be
such an amped up guy. But I'm honestly having a really great time right now with this conversation. So that conversation amps me up for sure.
That's it, yeah.
But generally speaking, I'm a very calm guy. You know, I can tell you some funny stories of my childhood that most people would be freaking out, and I'm just literally just chilling, you know. So, yeah, I've been a very calm guy, but jiu-jitsu also, and martial arts training in general, you learn to remain calm in stressful situations.
It's true, yeah.
And that's kind of one of those things that I learned very young, even in karate back in those days, was you cannot have emotion, right, when you're sparring or fighting, whatever it is. If you bring emotion to it, and I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah,
I don't know if people know that about me, but I read all his books when I was younger. I still teach principles of Bruce Lee stuff in my classes today. You know, like how to be fast, how to all this stuff. And
you like
Bruce
water?
Lee, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee said, you know, you should be as calm kicking someone in the head as you are just having tea or whatever.
Really,
like,
yeah.
Super calm, you know. And I think I internalized that young. And then jiu-jitsu, it's all about
being kind of loose,
loose and calm, and really just absorbing what the person has to give. You know, if someone comes at you with hyper-aggression, if you meet that with hyper-aggression, but they're bigger, stronger, more aggressive, you know, you're gonna end up exhausting yourself.
Definitely, yeah.
And for me, like you said, I'm a brown belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It's taken me, this is 15 years now I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu, which is funny for people watching. They might be like, he's not even a black belt yet, this guy sucks. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I do suck in certain ways. But, you know, but karate, you know, I've heard of people getting karate black belts within 3 to 5 years. It's a bit different. Jiu-Jitsu black belts that average, like, you know, 12 to 15, 17
Definitely.
years. It's not unheard of for sure. But anyways, one thing I've learned over the years is, like, I used to try to match people's energy. You know, a young guy like you comes in strong, aggressive, and I would try to match that. But dude, I'm 43 years old now. So now for me to hang with the young guns, like I want to let them exhaust themselves.
Exactly, outsmart them. Yeah.
It's like Rocky, right? You know, you just like be a punching bag for the first like 5 rounds, whatever. Then the guy gets tired and he can come back. And
no, 100% too. It's like that's something I use, like complete opposite example, but like in terms of argumentation, I used to study a lot of lawyers. I used to like the way some of these guys are able to break down arguments, articulate their points, and then completely let Buddy shoot all his bullets. Then he's sitting there at the end of it, and then you have like 15 lined up. Exactly. He's like, okay, there you go. Here, this, and he has nothing to counter. He's already exhausted the points, right? Kind of like the mind battle.
Like Eminem, man, 8 Mile.
Exactly.
Right? That's like total verbal jiu-jitsu.
It's so true.
Everything's jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? So Eminem, 8 Mile, says it all about himself, right? And then it's like, what do you got? Nothing.
He already exhausted everything. I wanted to ask you then, going off of that point, like something like you were talking, because obviously like jiu-jitsu is compared to like chess. Some people wouldn't understand that, but some would obviously. But for you, like, completely back the point up. What I'm trying to say is that I look at martial arts like a sixth sense. Like it's your sixth sense. We have 5. It's a sixth one. So comparing it like to kind of, you look at like jiu-jitsu like a chess thing. How do you talk to me about martial arts being like a sixth sense? It's like an added tool to your belt. Sorry, it took me so long to get that out. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting. It gives you a certain awareness of your abilities and also the dangers of, you know, for example, some people might get themselves in a fight, which doesn't need to happen.
Definitely.
Right? So the first thing I tell all my students, and bear in mind, most of the lines that I tell my students are 100% stolen from Henry Gracie.
Oh, yeah.
Henry's the master with the one-liner. Yeah. But, you know, he says 99% of fights are 100% avoidable. Right? So really, there's only 1% of those fights out there that you really even need to be engaging in, and that's when someone just completely attacks you.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, but awareness is huge, and keeping that ego under check, in check is huge. And then of course just being prepared, you know.
Exactly.
But you're right. I mean, it's interesting that it's funny because when I wear my street clothes, I feel like I'm still me, but I don't feel the same as when I wear my gi. Like when I wear my gi, I'm a little bit like I'm a superhero right now. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
And then then when I wear my street clothes, I have to kind of remind myself like, hey, you could triangle that guy. You could like literally choke that guy in 10 seconds if you wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But I just kind of it's in the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not in the forefront, you know. Unless someone's being a real jerk, then mentally you're listening to them and you're smiling and laughing, but then at the same time you're like mentally choking them.
Exactly. Yeah. You're like, okay, yeah, he makes a move, we're gonna kick him in the head. Or not. Well, for you, it's choke. For me, it would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw a kick at him. You know what I mean? It's one of those things, and that's the hardest thing that people get over. They see us martial arts. Some people see as a stigma in martial arts. These type of people, big meathead types. Then you meet some, like you said, the champion there that was 23-time champion. Johnny, he's the type of guy, you know, you walk up to, shake his hand, or Vanderlei Silva even, like crazy guy in the ring, but you meet him outside, he's like one of the nicest guys.
Some of the high level fighters that I've talked to and trained with and everything, and P.S.
You met St. Pierre too.
I've met George St. Pierre. I've witnessed a training session with them.
Wow.
I was down in New York with our old team. We brought Mark Holst from Ottawa. He had
nice, yeah.
Yeah, UFC fights booked, and he was down there training with those guys. And I watched Mark spar with George St. Pierre, and it was really fun. You know, they were doing some stand-up with takedowns, and you know, Mark's a very good Thai boxer, professional, and you know, he would like throw some kicks. He was catching some kicks here and there and that kind of stuff, and then George would just dump him.
Yeah.
And George is just a super athlete to watch, nicest guy.
Yeah.
But you know who else I got to train with recently is Brian Ortega.
Okay.
Brian Ortega is fighting Frankie Edgar. I think it's in like a week.
Holy
or two.
crap! Yeah.
Yeah.
They're almost a belt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the main event right now. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And Brian, so Henry Gracie came up to Timmins recently. There's an affiliated academy in Timmins.
Oh, nice.
And this is what's cool about these guys is they'll come to these things to have seminars. And so Henry came up. I had Hidon Gracie, Henry's brother, a couple of years ago at my academy. Henry came up to Timmins, and as a surprise, he just brought Brian Ortega with him.
Wow.
So it was like, oh, we get a seminar with Henry, but P.S. Brian's here also. And it was so fun. And we were testing some of our guys for Purple Belt, rolling with them, and I got to roll around with Brian.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because in my mind, like, it was really hot in there. It was really, really hot. And like, you know, I'm getting older, whatever. So we were rolling, testing these guys for Purple Belt, did a bunch of rounds, and then I had rolled with everybody. And one guy still had to roll with Henner's yet. So everyone got a chance to roll with Henner and Brian. So Brian was free, and I was like, man, I was exhausted, right? I'm like, dude, I'm so tired. But I look over, and Brian's available, and I'm like, when am I ever going to get a chance to roll with Brian? And Brian might become a UFC champion, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, man, this is my chance. I'm going to go train with this guy. And even though I was exhausted, I just like sucked it up, went and rolled with Brian for 5 minutes. And it was so much fun.
I can imagine,
so good. It's crazy.
I want you to talk to me about that. So from a motivational standpoint, I talk to a lot of people about breaking through that barrier. So most people tell you, like, oh, I've exhausted all my resources. I'm dead tired laying there. It's just a prime example of that where all of a sudden I would say to people, okay, you know, you have nothing left. They're saying, I have nothing left. All of a sudden, Brian Ortega walks to the door. Talk about how all of a sudden you went from that dead state. You probably did really well. Like, I mean, you were probably still exhausted physically, but mentally you probably, like, talk about how it kind of sparked you up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it comes from the martial arts training over the years. You know, like you just learn to just put the physical pain or whatever's going on just behind you, and you just push. You just go. You know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I talk about being old, but you know, I'm a little bit older now. I'm more of a coach than anything else, and some of my students have never really seen me train hard. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, I did my rounds. I did the, you know, like, I did the thing. I did all that stuff. I did all that stuff, man. I did all the, you know, the sparring rounds and the hard kicks and like kicking the pad until you pass out, and, you know, stuff like that. I've done it, and it's so much fun. It teaches you your limitations. It teaches you to go beyond your limits. And I think from like a motivational standpoint, like a business standpoint, you know, I definitely have days, man. I have days where I'm you know, I hit the snooze button one too many times, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, man, I can't today, man, I can't.
Yeah.
But with me, you know, I have classes. I have people that are looking forward to my classes, and when I show up for my class, you know, whatever might be happening in my personal life, I do my absolute best to just like slam that out the door, and I go in, I smile on my face, positivity.
Yeah. No,
and I think anyone who works with people, because really we all do, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think anyone who works with people ultimately knows that you know, you feed off each other's energy, and if you're coming to the table with negative energy, they're going to feel that too. And in my industry, you can't. I mean, people come to my facility as a retreat. You know, they're coming in there for a workout or for a class to learn to do whatever they're doing, and they don't want, you know, me, you know, griping about my personal life. You know, it's definitely. Like this is their vacation. It's a 1 hour vacation, right? They come in, and they should be. So I'm giving like business advice to my competitors. Guys, don't listen.
No, it's all good. Yeah, don't worry.
When the people come in the door, in my mentality, it's like that needs to be a friendly place, like you said about rapport,
exactly,
you know, building relationships, and they need to feel like that's such a fun place. They want to come back there every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, like who wouldn't? I want to come and have this conversation every day.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
The huge thing actually, would just a point for people out there, you know what I mean, that maybe haven't seen Steve before. So funny enough, you built. In my opinion, I'm not trying to, you know, I'm friends with everybody else from all the other gyms. I've trained at most of them, and it's huge to see you built the strongest gym in the city. You built like some of the top athletes came out of that gym. You know what I mean? Yeah, regardless of where everyone ended up, you know, years later, like you actually had the strongest gym, the best vibe. You were the reason that I'm sitting here today doing what I'm doing as a career. An indirect reason. Your gym started that. Muay Thai was my passion. And that just goes to show you the power of what you created. As like, think about it. You didn't come to the city. Maybe I didn't never join Muay Thai. I would have never found it. Maybe I would have. But you're an indirect reason. That's powerful in a sense. That actually is huge.
That's a huge compliment.
Yeah. Some of the top fighters, some of these guys that are, you know, could go fight pro, do all these things. They're doing their own thing. Everyone's doing well. But it's funny, actually. I just thought of that as we're going on. You actually are an indirect cause of the whole reason for a number of things. This whole entire blow up in the city. People seeing you probably making money, and not to talk money, but seeing you making money, doing well, building influence. Everyone else started. That's a compliment to what you've accomplished.
Well, it's, you know,
it's wild.
Thanks for saying that.
It's true.
I think everyone does. All the gyms around town are doing a great job of what they do, and there's definitely guys that are doing way better than me now, business-wise. You know, I feel like I've kind of, like I said, I feel like I've carved my niche.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. You know, I'm happy with the clientele I have and the type of people that are coming in. And you know, for example, I tell people all the time, like. A lot of people have this conception about jiu-jitsu and about Muay Thai, about training, martial arts, that, you know, it's really rough, and they're going to come in, it's like UFC Fight Club, they're going to put the gloves on and try to
That was Team Shredder, okay, I went there. No, it was good, they're good.
So, you know, just to let people know, like, I have middle-aged women in my classes. I have a guy who's 73 years old. Shout out to George. I know you're watching George.
I met George, actually, good luck.
Yeah, George
super nice guy,
He's the nicest guy ever. So he's been training for like 3 years. You know, he graduated our Gracie Combatives program, our beginner program. He does our advanced classes. He rolls with the guys.
Really?
He's 73. Like he inspires me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't realize this, but when George is on the mat, I'm inspired.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's super cool. Yeah, you know, I've got everywhere from like, you know, little 3-year-olds. My own daughter has been training. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Get her involved too. So the last question I'm going to ask you, Steve. So obviously, you know, like I said, you've done an exceptional job. You know, built it up around the city. Compliment to you. What do you see? What do you have planned next? Like, do you have anything else? I just always like to ask. Like, obviously, you're content doing your thing, got your niche. Like, is there anything specifically we can look out for? Steve's coming. Like anything? So I want to ask that.
To be honest, I'm at a stage where I'm pretty content, and I'm kind of rebuilding my life in certain ways. You know, I've been going through a divorce. You know, it's been about a year. And I'm just kind of like rebuilding in certain ways. You know, I really just want to focus on the programs that I have offered right now. You know, the Gracie Academy has awesome programs. So right now we run the Women Empowered program, which is our newest program. It's specifically, it's based on the 20 most common attacks on women. And in fact, just a little plug, we have a free seminar tomorrow.
Huge.
So maybe if we could link up like in the comments, we'll put the link for that event. There's still spots, so just PM me, and it's free for anyone in the community, any females 13 and up. And like I said, I have a 73-year-old dude, so there's no really age limit.
Love it.
13 to 18, though, they would have to bring an adult to supervise them. We do talk about maturity.
Definitely, yeah.
It's based on the 20 most common attacks on women. And it's just a really good way of introducing women into jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
Which is super cool. And, you know, a lot of academies have a specific women's class, but this is a women's program. Right, so it's specifically designed for women. The techniques are designed based off of real life scenarios. If you guys have ever watched the YouTube channel Gracie Breakdown, so Henry and Tito and Gracie, they have this YouTube channel, Gracie Breakdown. They break down fights, MMA fights, real fight situations, cops, you know, cops trying to apprehend people, whatever. And they'll break down, like, you know, for example, there's one that we use as an example in the class of a woman being abducted in Philadelphia. It was a few years ago. and she, you know, there's a security camera footage, and you see the woman coming around the corner. The dude had parked his car, hit her around the corner. When she comes around, he grabs her. It's a completely empty street, drags her into the car, puts her in the car, and takes off. And the whole thing takes about, I think it's like 12 seconds.
No kidding, yeah.
And as he leaves, maybe about 5 seconds later, a car comes driving by. So the technique we teach is called the base, like, you know, combat base, and it's like making yourself as heavy and as strong as possible. So the person, even if they are dragging you, they're dragging you like inch by inch. You're just dragging out that time, that isolation time by like, rather than 12 seconds, maybe it would have taken 20 seconds.
Exactly, yeah.
So there would be an opportunity for that passerby to see and witness and possibly help, right? So we use this as an example in the classes.
Yeah.
Anyways, seminars tomorrow.
So seminars tomorrow.
Yeah, we got like 30 people signed up already, 40 people. There's lots of room, though. Come on in. And we always say, you know, it's 5 techniques that can save your life. You know, so
that's 100% true. Yeah.
It's funny. I've been on this trip lately where I equate self-defense training, like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, with swimming and driving.
Oh, really?
Right? So for me, it's like when parents come to me, they're like, "Yeah, little Timmy doesn't want to do the classes anymore." I'm like, "Well, A, why does little Timmy get to make his own decisions? You know, what I mean? Like, do you pull him out of school if he doesn't want to go to school?
Yeah,
right. It's good for him. And B, you know, if Timmy wanted to quit swimming lessons, would you let him quit? Because swimming is a life-saving skill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Your kid falls in the water, they got to be able to swim. And same thing for me, jiu-jitsu. It's like I would never allow my daughter to quit. Maybe take a little break here and there if she gets, you know, a little bit frustrated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Take a week off or whatever. It's all good. But you know, you quit jiu-jitsu, then you don't have those skills.
Exactly.
Imagine you grow up and you don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
I know adults who can't drive, right? And sometimes it's by choice, or sometimes they're too scared or whatever. My mom was like that. She never had a driver's license.
No kidding.
And my question is this: when the zombie apocalypse comes, what are you gonna do? Right? We've all seen Walking Dead. There's a vehicle there. You got to jump in. You got to hightail it. I'm joking around. Of course,
but still, no.
But it's a skill. It's a life skill, right?
It is, yeah.
So to me, it's like it's not the same as like soccer and hockey and all these other things that are fantastic activities. However, are they life skills? Right? To me, jiu-jitsu, swimming, driving.
I know, I gotta say, even so, like I said, I might not be coming from the jiu-jitsu background, but just Muay Thai in general was completely life-changing. In that sense that it's another skill, it's something you have, it's a tool that you're going to utilize forever. It doesn't matter where you go, you still remember how to throw a punch, throw a kick, or defend yourself. Some guy comes at you, or a girl. I actually wanted to ask you, I know we were supposed to end. Yeah, defend, cover up, yeah. I wanted to ask you something, and this is to end it. This is kind of an interesting question from a martial arts background. As a trainer, this is something I've never asked anybody before, and I've interviewed fighters, I've interviewed trainers. How is it, like, this is a difficult thing, just for parents to understand, like, this is very rare. If you have a fighter going into the ring, like, what happens, Steve, as a trainer? Like, walk me through this. If your fighter gets knocked out, like, when you're watching, that's a tough situation. It's happened to me. I've watched it happen to other people. I want you to walk people through so they understand, like, you're such a caring person and stuff, but that's the sport we're in there, where you're in combat, and it's fast, and then all of a sudden, someone gets the light shut out. Talk to me about that for a second. I know that's a completely random question, but I just was thinking about that. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting.
You know, it's actually one of the reasons that I pretty much have put the brakes on teaching and training fighters for competitive Muay Thai. We've transitioned more to a fitness kickboxing. Like Muay Thai fitness kickboxing program is more based on fitness and just kind of like getting people in, learning the skills, having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and people do still spar a little bit at my gym, but that's a very separate thing. You know, a couple of my students did get knocked out, and you know, you feel terrible. It's
scary. You know, you watch it.
Well, one guy ended up with a concussion. Actually, one guy won his fight, but still got a concussion.
Oh crap! Yeah.
And I found out afterwards. He didn't tell me before, but it was like his 3rd concussion.
Oh crap!
And the way concussions work, I learned a lot about concussions in a kickboxing coaching course that I took.
Yeah.
And you know, they say, like, you know, it's exponential. So, like, you know, 1 + 1 actually equals like 3.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it just gets exponentially worse and worse. And this poor guy, being a very athletic dude, you know, he was competitive. He liked to train a lot.
Yeah.
But he completely just quit. He just, you know, he couldn't compete anymore. And I was like, man, you know, why don't you become a coach? Why don't you focus on jiu-jitsu? Maybe you can compete there, whatever. But he just didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I really started to reevaluate all that stuff. And that's a scary thing, you know. And now I'm so aware of head injuries
Yeah.
I keep things as safe as possible at my gym. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I love the jiu-jitsu program we have, the Gracie Combatives program. People are scared of getting hurt when they come to jiu-jitsu. And when they come to our Gracie Combatives program, there is literally virtually no risk of getting hurt. It's such a cooperative training environment that you're just there for the whole hour just learning techniques.
Exactly, yeah.
And, you know, again, in our Muay Thai fitness kickboxing, you come in, you do your fitness workout, and you do your kicking the pads and everything else like that. And, you know, you don't have to get hit in the face or anything like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But, you know, that was a scary time for them, for sure. You know, one kid, I remember him getting knocked out, and he was, like, hanging on the ropes.
I saw it. I was there. Yeah, you know, even me, like, I've watched a lot of those. I've been in the game, you know, for almost 10 years, and I was even shocked. You know, you watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I remember seeing my first live knockout. It was in Ottawa, and it was a kickboxing fight, and, yeah, the guy knocked out, boom, and he was just laying on the ground, and for a moment, you're like, is he alive?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's just like everything kind of goes quiet, the whole arena, and then after he wakes up a little bit, everyone kind of claps and like, okay, good for you. But you know, man, concussions are serious. And actually, if you've seen this movie, I think it's actually called Concussion
with Will Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, that was serious. I watched that and I was like,
scary.
You know, it's really scary, and yeah, I really caution people, like anything that can cause injuries like that. Like,
you can look at hockey, you know.
Hockey, snowboarding, you know, like I'm a big snowboarder. You know, and I've cracked my head. You know, I was one of those stubborn guys, never wore a helmet. I was like, every time I'd crack my head, I'd be like, oh, I gotta get a helmet for next time, you know?
Yeah, that's why you got that heading before you came. You know, I'm just kidding.
It's too late, right?
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. But no, the reason I want to ask that too, and just for anybody else out there right now looking to try martial arts, it's not like that in a lot of cases. That was the extreme end of it. And I want to ask, as a trainer, I've never asked anybody that question, so it's interesting. So to cut this off, though, I mean, we've been going on. It's great conversation. We could probably talk for 4 hours.
Sure.
But where can we find you here on social media? So I tagged you in here, Steve. But if someone wants to do a free trial at your gym, you know, Sudbury BJJ Muay Thai, you have one in the Valley as well as Montrose Mall.
Yeah.
So New Sudbury.
Absolutely.
Where can we find you? Tell it right into the microphone.
So SudburyBJJ.com, or if you're on Facebook, just search Sudbury BJJ and Muay Thai Academy. You'll find our page. If you're on Instagram, same thing. And yeah, we always give away a free class, a free trial. You know, what I recommend for people is like try all the different gyms. Everything has its own vibe.
Exactly.
And you know, just all gyms will give you at least a free class.
Yeah.
And see what works best for you. You know, but definitely come see us and see the difference.
And show Steve's class right there, directing it to his other business. It goes to show how confident, how successful you've been. A lot of people would never say that, and I love that about you. Seriously, you've done an exceptional job.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for the Perrier.